Hello. Jesus, Hats, you don't need to be so upset. But anyway, how's everybody been enjoying themselves lately? We've kind of had a little bit of time to let, Rex and EO settle into their roles and people get comfortable with this, with their new kits and all of that stuff and the interactions between them with Tyrannotitan and Tyrannotitan with EO and then EO with Rex and Tyrannotitan. You get what I mean. Either way, there's a bunch of, stat testing being done from the quality assurance team, and, they're doing stat adjustments and just testing what could possibly be good for the next little round of balancing that Aldron like to do, because we know how that usually goes. Thankfully, they are actually reaching out to players to test these in the first place. It's kind of a double-edged sword, leaving, or getting balance suggestions from the player base as well. Every player's got their balance, bias, right? If I had my way, I'd make Rhamph be able to plague a Tyrannotitan or anything in 2 seconds. No, I wouldn't. Yes, I would. But anyway, today's video is kind of a short one, as you can obviously see in the bottom right there. This is more of a casual one, I gotta say. Then again, every video with, focused on Rhamph is gonna be casual, really, because, well, it's Rhamph! What can you say? Rhamph is the most casual playable in the game, which is why I enjoy it. But hey, Rhamph is also the most OP playable in the game. If you disagree, well, you're wrong. Sorry, not sorry. I don't make the rules. You're just wrong. I am just joking, not really. But anyway, today's video is more like I've just got 2 little scenarios. One of them is a bit longer than the other, and yeah, they were pretty funny in my opinion. And I hope you find them funny as well. But I've rambled on for long enough. 2 minutes and almost 15 seconds. And with all that out of the way, I hope you all enjoy. So for this one, obviously, as a Rhamph, I'm going to be quite mischievous. But at the end, it may look a little bit mean. Oh well. So, in the crater, where of course as usual, there are so many people, and I ended up finding some other Rhampharinkas to kind of just annoy the locals. Plaguing the Spinosaurs, the Tyrannotitans, anything really that came in and would need to eat meat, though as fast as we were starving them. There was also people just coming into Crater and pretty much just dying to the people here. And anybody who we were managing to actually starve and get a little bit low, they would just log out on us. Because, well, without someone to actually hit them and keep them in combat, we can't really starve people out. But eventually I had enough, and I decided that I wanted to just maybe see if there was anything over in Wilderness Peak. And there happened to be 2 Tyrannotitans, a Rex and a Pycno. And they happened to be building a nest. I guess maybe they wanted to switch some abilities or whatever. Though, when I ended up seeing one of them actually sleeping on the nest, I assumed they are just changing abilities. And there was only one thought going through my mind, which was to attack the nest, bring it down to a percentage where they can no longer change their abilities, and perhaps maybe one of their friends would come over and try and bite me without thinking, dealing 4 times damage to their sleeping friend. Because, right after I flew off, their friend came over, and, well, they just decided, oh yeah, let's do this again. Let's just sleep on the nest. And I'm pretty much just jumping there going, go on, do it, hit your friend. But with as fast as I can destroy a nest, due to it being Wilderness Peak, they can also just rebuild it back up very quickly. Especially with multiple people actually gathering resources to do so. Though that won't stop me from having my fun. Yeah, funnily enough, Rhampharinkas can do little flybys actually hitting nests. As long as you're close enough, so be careful not to hit the floor. Though, a funny thing that happened here, the Rex came over and tried to drop a rock or whatever is needed for the nest and accidentally just bit the nest. So the Tyrannotitan ended up actually just biting them, saying, "Hey, you dummy, you hit my nest." I carried on with my little flybys of just trying to break the nest, with them also retaliating with heavy bites that obviously were never gonna actually hit. But they did eventually actually just activate my lucky feather, in which I took advantage of the 10 seconds of just invulnerability to just get as much damage on it as I possibly could. In which I decided to then fly over to my own nest, which was very close by, and I decided to switch from Scab Picker over to Bloodsucker, before then going back to my little flybys, doing damage to their nest, while they're off away from the nest, gathering resources. Though there was something in the area that did have me worried a little bit, since I don't have Lucky Feather at my disposal at this moment, and that was a hat. Ended up doing this not very long commitment of trying to go after my Rhamph. It pretty much only took one little dive down to get them to say, yeah, maybe it's not worth actually trying to chase a Rhamph here. Though, I did end up seeing the Rex and Tyrannotitan both sleeping on the nest, and I thought it kind of worthy to actually try and maybe just get some damage on the nest anyway, kind of just to bait out some friendly fire. At this point, they're kind of committed to keeping at least one person next to the nest at all times, while the rest of the group go and gather resources. Though that is not gonna stop me from going for a cheeky little bite every now and then, especially now the Lucky Feather is back. Anything to be annoying. But now they are just trying to crowd around the nest with as much as possible, so I decide that I might as well get a drink while I can, in which the Pycno seems very, very desperate to try and stop me from doing so. And obviously, I'm not desperate for water. I still got about like 65-70% water left, and, well, the Pycno, I guess, they just really don't want me doing what I can freely. So, this was a fun little game of just back and forth. I swim across, they end up chasing, sometimes even charging to try and get me. Though one of the Titans did end up actually drinking the water that I wanted to drink, but oh well. I went for another bite at the nest, but ended up crashing into one of the Titans. That did make me jump a little bit, I can't lie. So, I might as well just get a little bit of healing while I can. Thankfully, in this situation, I was running Bloodsucker, so very quick healing. And if they try to bite me off, well, there's a chance they just end up biting their friend. But you see how there's the other Rhamph running around the nest? They're also biting the nest, trying to hit it, and I guess this Rex is just trying their luck at any chance they can to try and hit something going for the nest. But not long after, they eventually just give up on trying to defend the nest, and they decide to just go into crater. I guess the time spent building and defending the nest must have just left them with a little bit of hunger that they need to fulfill. In which they did end up finding 2 random Titans in the crater that they immediately went for. And, well, what can you say about it? They went after it, they killed them, they ate them, and I was trying to plague them the entire time, but there's only so much you can do as a Rhamph on your own. And what else can I say here? I mean, they killed them, they ate them, as I said. There's really not much to complain about. They went into crater, they wanted food, they got food, and now they're gonna just log outside of crater. I guess they fulfilled what they wanted, right? Well, at least the Titans are gonna log out. In which I was trying to plague them as much as I can, while also just being a nuisance. But where I had my real fun here, and the part that I think could have been pretty mean, you know, depending on your perspective, is, well, you see how they ended up killing those Titans. They ended up getting a trophy from one of them. And the Rex has the Pycno practically just escorting, but running up ahead to make sure there was nothing, you know, to actually interfere with the Rex delivering it. And so I'm just keeping an eye on the Rex right here, thinking, which way are you gonna go? Are you gonna go towards the Triad Falls cave, or are you going to the White Cliffs home cave? And when I ended up seeing that they wanted to go to the White Cliffs cave, I decided this is where, some people could say, oh, that is so mean. But I'm a Rhamph, I don't care. I'm still in a group with the other Rhamphs right now, and you know which call Rhamph has that only works in groups right now, and can also steal trophies? Well, of course, it's Rat Out. It's a voice call ability that ends up forcing anybody who is not in combat to do a broadcast call, which also then makes them drop whatever they're holding. Or it stops them from resting for a moment, or either way, the most important thing is, in this case, is that they end up dropping the trophy. And always remember what Dennis is. Sorry about that. I enjoy using that song as an example, or a sample, any chance I get where it fits. But anyway, just remember that anyone who's holding a trophy, it's not yours, it belongs to all Rhamphs. It's not a rule I made up, but Dennis made up, and because he made it up, it's objectively correct. Sorry. So this one is a bit shorter, but I found it very funny, so I decided to add it in. Why not? So there was a small skirmish brewing in Crater, and I saw that there was, a bunch of Tyranno Titans. There's some Pycnos coming in from White Cliffs, and I'm kind of just waiting to see if anything gets low and starts bleeding heavily. And as you can see, a Pycno ends up attacking a Tyranno Titan. There's also some other Apexes that are also against the other Tyranno Titans. It's kind of just a mishmash. You don't really know who is with who. And it doesn't really matter to me, because I'm just going for whoever I can. But anyway, there was one Pycno that ended up going in and taking a bit more damage than they had really anticipated. They ended up accidentally charging into one of their own friends, because they just weren't looking where they were going, and I just noticed that they were bleeding pretty heavily. So, using Scab Picker, I'm pretty much just decreasing their bleed healing, cutting it in half, just so they bleed for a lot longer. And each time they try to sit, well, you just hop off and you hop back on, and then you just stop them from sitting, prolonging the bleed even longer. They decide to start walking towards the White Cliffs ramp, where no one would spot that they were bleeding heavily and also in a spot of trouble, while I'm following along the entire time, just making sure that they don't drop their Scab Picker debuff. And then this funny thing happens. I end up hopping off and going to rest on this rock, just keeping an eye on them, and they decide that they want to try and get me, which then led to this. And just for a bonus, I decided to add my own perspective right here, just because seeing them just fall out of my point of view behind a rock was very funny. I had already taken a trophy beforehand, so I couldn't really take the trophy here. And so here we are at the end. As I said in the beginning of the video, nothing too serious, just a little Rhamph doing Rhamph things, really. What else can we say? I do have something I want to start working on after, I've put this up. And for that, all I'm just going to say is I was playing Deinonychus. And it was actually a very, very fun fight, war, whatever you want to call it. I've also gotten quite a lot of, footage together, ready to actually start making the discussion video that I've been talking about for way too long. But either way, it's starting to actually come together now with the footage I've grabbed and the replay mode and all of that stuff, so it's just kind of gotta be the whole voicing over thing that like I'm doing right now. That's usually actually the hardest part for me, just because, let's just say whenever I'm doing voiceovers for videos, it takes a lot of attempts for me to actually get it right and not fumble my words. This entire sentence right now, I have said about 7 times. which is the main reason as the the videos go on. By the time I hit the end of the video, and I'm usually talking, that's why my voice gets a little raspy, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's I suck at talking. I suck at public speaking, but it's probably a good skill for me to learn. Anyway, you know, just passively by doing it. And it has been pretty fun doing so as well. What am I even talking about right now? I think I'm just rambling just to ramble, just because I enjoy rambling about nothing, really. I don't know. You know, you could just say I like the sound of my own voice in a very sarcastic manner. It's up to you. Either way, that's enough of my rambling. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you all have a lovely day. Bye!